ready to go way back in time.
Always.
Today, we're going to kind of go past like the Romans and Greeks
Oh, wow.
and look at a civilization that was around centuries before.
Sounds fun.
Imagine a power so big it stretched from the Mediterranean Sea all the way to the Persian Gulf.
Wow.
And they left a mark on the world that we can still see today.
That's amazing.
We're diving deep
Okay.
into the Assyrian Empire.
Oh, cool.
They were conquerors,
Yeah.
innovators,
Mm-hmm.
and get this, they even had some democracy.
I know. It's fascinating
Right.
how much we still have to learn about them.
Yeah.
You know, the Assyrians weren't just these like brutal warriors
Yep, right.
that we think of. There's
Yeah.
a lot more to their story.
It's much more complex than that.
There's so much complexity that we just don't know.
Totally. And today, we've got some really great source material to help us.
Ah, awesome.
We're going to be looking at excerpts
Cool.
from an interview you did with Professor Eckhart,
Oh, yeah, he's great.
who is an expert
Yeah,
on the Assyrians.
definitely.
And he actually argues
Oh, really?
that they might have been the world's first true empire.
That's a big claim.
I
A
know.
lot of people disagree with that.
I know, right? It's very controversial. And we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
But first, let's just like set the stage a little bit.
Yeah, good idea.
Who were the Assyrians?
Oh.
I mean, like, how do we even begin to understand them?
They didn't just appear out of thin air as this like big, powerful group.
Right.
You know, their story goes way back,
Okay.
thousands of years,
Wow.
back to the third millennium BCE,
Right.
when they were just a small city-state.
So just like a small city.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they were mostly just focused on trading.
Okay.
And get this, back then, their government
Yeah.
actually had elements of democracy.
Hey, hold on.
Yeah.
Democracy
Yeah.
in ancient Assyria.
I know, it's wild.
That blows my mind.
You know, it is. It's like one of those things that reminds us that history is full of surprises.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
like we think we know what's going on, but then,
Totally.
you know, we learn something like that
Right.
and it just changes everything.
So are you saying they had like a full-blown, Athenian-style democracy?
Well, not exactly like that, but they had this thing
Okay.
called a mixed constitution.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a pure democracy, but it was this system where citizens actually had a voice
Oh,
on some issues.
that's amazing.
I know, right? It's so different.
So different from what we, think of
Yeah.
with these ancient empires.
Yeah, you imagine these like
Yeah.
powerful kings
Right.
just ruling everything.
Right. With an iron fist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So to see that they actually had some level of
Yeah.
public participation
Yeah.
is really remarkable.
So then how did they go
Yeah.
from these merchant traders
Yeah.
with this semi-democratic system to this huge, all-powerful empire?
Well, it was a long process.
Okay.
It took centuries.
Right.
They evolved over time.
Okay.
They started as merchants.
Yeah.
Then they became a powerful kingdom.
Okay.
And then finally they became an empire.
Wow.
But through all of these changes,
Yeah.
there were some things that stayed the same.
Like what
Yeah.
what kind of things stayed with them through all those changes?
Their language.
Oh, okay.
Well, it changed a bit
Okay.
over time.
Yeah.
But the core of it
Right.
stayed the same.
Right.
And that gave them a sense of shared heritage.
Okay.
Like, they had a common bond.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
And then there's their main god,
Okay.
Ashur.
Oh, okay.
At first, he was just a local city god,
Okay.
but as the Assyrians became more ambitious,
Yeah.
he became more important too. He
Okay.
kind of grew with them.
I see.
He became this powerful god of war. And that kind of reflected their shift from trade to conquest.
So their god kind of evolved
Totally.
to meet their, their changing
Exactly.
priorities.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's really interesting how religion and politics
Mm-hmm.
were so intertwined back then.
So we've got this pretty fascinating backstory.
It's amazing.
But how do we actually know so much about them?
Wow.
It was so long ago.
They wrote everything down.
Oh, that's good.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But not on paper.
Yeah.
They wrote on clay tablets.
Clay tablets.
Yeah.
I mean, not super efficient,
No, not really.
like hauling those things around.
Yeah, and they were heavy and bulky.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But clay is really durable.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it lasts forever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we have tons of information from them.
How much are we talking?
Over 1 million documents from the Assyrian Empire.
You're kidding?
I know, it's incredible.
1 million That is mind-boggling.
It is.
Imagine all the secrets that are in there.
I know, right? There's so much we still haven't deciphered.
Wow, what kind of things did they write about?
All sorts of things. Royal inscriptions.
Oh, okay.
Bragging about their military victories.
Right, that's what you'd expect.
Yeah, classic propaganda.
Right.
You know, trying to make themselves look powerful and scary.
Well, of course.
But then there are these really personal records, too.
Oh, cool. Like what?
Letters between family members.
Ah.
Tax documents.
No.
Legal contracts.
Okay.
It's like we're getting a glimpse
Yeah.
into their daily lives. You know? We can see what they cared about, what they struggled with.
That's amazing.
It's like we have a more complete picture of the Assyrians than some other ancient civilizations.
Right, because we have so much, evidence for
Exactly.
their actual lives.
It's not just about battles and kings.
Right.
It's about the people.
That makes it so much more interesting.
I know, right? And that's what makes studying them so captivating.
Okay.
It's like a giant puzzle that we're still putting together.
So now let's talk about the rise of the Assyrian Empire.
Okay.
Professor Eckhart, in his interview, he points to this really important figure,
Oh, yeah.
King Tiglath-Pileser III.
Oh, wow.
He ruled from 745 to 727 BCE.
Okay.
And he kind of inherited
Yeah.
this kingdom that was in big trouble.
Uh-oh.
Plague,
Oh, no.
internal rebellions,
Yikes.
defeats on the battlefield.
Not good. Not good.
I mean, it sounds like a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sounds like he had his work cut out for him.
But
Yeah.
in less than 20 years,
What?
he doubled the size of Assyria.
Wow.
He was really a remarkable leader.
That's
He
amazing.
turned things around like crazy.
Yeah, talk about a comeback story.
So how did he do it?
Yeah.
What was his secret?
I mean, how did he go from like the brink of collapse to this mighty empire?
Yeah.
He was good at a lot of things.
Okay.
He was attacking problems from all sides.
Okay.
So for one thing, he did major administrative reforms.
Administrative reforms.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Basically, he reorganized the government
Oh,
to make it more efficient.
got it.
You see, during those bad times,
Uh-huh.
some of the officials,
The government officials.
yeah,
Okay.
had gotten way too powerful.
Oh, okay.
Almost like they were like little kings themselves.
So that we're operating like independently.
Pretty much.
Wow.
They had their own armies, they collected their own taxes.
That must have been a nightmare for the king.
It was total chaos.
Yeah.
So Tiglath-Pileser knew he had to do something about it.
So he needed to centralize control,
Exactly.
bring them all back in line.
He had to remind them who was boss.
So he fired them.
Well, some of them, yeah.
Okay.
But he also appointed new officials who were loyal to him.
Makes sense.
He also changed the structure.
Of the government.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that it was easier for him to control everything.
So he could keep an eye on everybody.
Exactly.
Okay. I can see why
Yeah.
he did that.
He wanted to make sure that everyone was working together and that he was the one in charge.
But I can imagine that, firing all those powerful officials
Yeah.
probably didn't make him very popular.
No, probably not.
But it sounds like he was more focused
Yeah.
on what was best
Yeah.
for the empire as a whole
Exactly.
and not on just like keeping individuals happy.
He had a bigger vision.
Oh,
He saw the bigger picture.
Right.
He knew that in order to make Assyria strong, he had to make some tough decisions.
so he was a master strategist,
Totally.
not just on the battlefield, but like in politics too.
Yeah, he was playing the long game.
And, speaking of the battlefield,
Oh, yeah.
we can't forget about,
The military side of things?
Professor Eckhart
Mm-hmm.
talks about how Tiglath-Pileser created this incredible army,
Oh,
like a real fighting force.
his army was legendary.
What was so special about it?
Well, first of all, it was a professional army.
Oh? Okay.
So these weren't just like random farmers
Right, yeah.
who got called up to fight
Right.
when there was a war.
So they were like full-time.
Yeah, they trained all the time.
Right.
They were paid.
Okay.
They had a career in the military.
That makes sense.
So they were really good at what they did.
So they were dedicated.
Exactly.
I mean, what did his army look like?
Imagine chariots
Wow.
just thundering across the battlefield.
That's awesome.
Skilled cavalry units.
Oh, okay.
Archers raining down arrows.
Right.
It must have been an incredible sight to see.
And scary if you were on the other side.
For sure.
Yeah, right.
And he wasn't afraid to try new things.
Like what?
He incorporated soldiers from conquered territories into his army.
Oh, interesting.
So he would conquer a place,
Yeah.
and then he would take some of their best soldiers and add them to his own army.
That was smart.
Yeah, it was a really smart move.
Yeah.
It meant that his army was really diverse
Okay.
and adaptable.
Right.
They could fight in different terrains. They had different skills.
Okay.
It was a huge advantage.
Makes sense.
And that was one of the big reasons they were so successful.
So he was thinking outside the box
Totally.
when it came to warfare.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
So it wasn't just brute force.
No.
It was strategy
Mm-hmm.
and a willingness to, learn
Yeah.
from other cultures.
He was always looking for an edge.
And he wasn't all about
Yeah.
the military.
He wasn't just a warlord.
Right.
He was also a really good diplomat.
What do you mean?
Well, he knew when to use force,
Yeah.
but he also knew when to negotiate.
Okay.
He understood the importance of alliances,
Okay.
of working with other groups.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes it was better to make a deal
Okay.
than to start a war.
Do we have any examples? Like any specific examples?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Of how he used diplomacy?
The Phoenician cities.
The Phoenician cities.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me more.
They were on the Mediterranean coast,
Okay.
really powerful in trading
Okay.
instead of conquering them.
Yeah.
He made deals with them.
Okay.
He got them to pay taxes to Assyria,
Okay.
and in exchange, he left them alone.
Smart. So he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
And they got to keep their freedom.
Exactly.
That's a win-win.
Right. It was a brilliant strategy.
So he knew
Yeah.
when to fight
Mm-hmm.
and when to make a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sign of a great leader.
Absolutely.
Right.
Professor Eckhart, actually,
Yeah.
compares Tiglath-Pileser to Philip II of Macedon,
Oh, wow.
Alexander the Great's father.
Right, right.
He says that they were both really important in setting the stage for, future empires.
I mean, that's high praise
It is.
to be compared to
Yeah.
the father of Alexander the Great.
It just shows you how significant Tiglath-Pileser was.
Okay, well, speaking of expansion,
Yeah.
let's talk about
His military campaigns.
Yeah. So where did he go
Oh, man.
after he had everything?
He was ambitious.
Yeah.
He went everywhere.
Like where?
Babylonia in the east,
Wow.
to the Mediterranean coast in the west.
So, I mean, that's a huge area.
It was a whirlwind. He was constantly on the move.
Did he have, like, specific targets in mind?
Mhm.
Or was he just kind of going wherever?
He definitely had some scores to settle.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, there was this kingdom called Urartu.
Okay.
It was up in the Armenian highlands.
Okay.
And they had beaten Assyria before,
Oh, wow.
humiliated them.
Oh, no.
So Tiglath-Pileser wanted revenge.
Oh, okay, so payback.
Big time.
So what happened?
He crushed them,
Ugh.
totally defeated them.
Wow, that's all.
It was a huge victory.
Okay.
It really showed everyone that Assyria was back.
So revenge
Yeah.
plus empire building.
Two birds, one stone.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so what other
Mm-hmm.
major conquests
Yeah.
did he achieve?
Two others are really important,
Okay.
not just for Assyrian history,
Yeah.
but for the whole world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He conquered the kingdom of Damascus
Okay.
and big parts of the kingdom of Israel.
Wait, hold on. That Israel,
Yeah,
the one from the Bible.
the one and only.
Wow.
This is actually when a lot of those stories from the Bible were happening.
I mean, that's amazing.
Oh, no, right?
To think about
It's wild.
those ancient battles
Yeah.
and how they're connected to stories we still tell today.
It really shows how interconnected history is.
Right.
It's all part of this one big story.
And it just highlights, I think,
Yeah.
the significance
Yeah.
of this period. I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't just
Yeah.
changing, like, the political landscape
Yeah.
of his time.
He was influencing stories that would be told for generations.
Wow. Okay, well, we can't forget about
Yeah.
Babylonia.
Babylonia?
Professor Eckhart mentioned this, like, complex relationship
Oh, yeah.
between Assyria and Babylonia.
He's complicated.
What was so complex about
Well,
it?
Babylonia was like the cultural center
Okay.
of Mesopotamia.
But-
It was like their ancient Greece.
Okay.
Even the Assyrians who conquered them,
Right.
they had a lot of respect for them,
Oh, wow.
for their history,
Okay.
for their achievements.
So it's like this kind of...
It's a love-hate relationship. They
Right.
wanted to control them,
Mm-hmm.
but they also admired them.
So what did Tiglath-Pileser do?
Well, he knew that Babylonia was important,
Okay.
not just for its resources,
Mhm.
but for its, like, symbolic value.
Yeah.
So he did something really smart.
What?
He crowned himself king of Babylon.
What? I know, right?
So he was like, the king of two kingdoms.
It was a brilliant move.
Yeah.
It showed everyone that he was in charge.
Right. But it also showed that he respected Babylonian traditions.
Right.
So it was like this really savvy way
Yeah.
of consolidating his power.
So he's blending,
Right.
like
Yeah.
military might,
Mm-hmm.
with this symbolic gesture.
Exactly.
And that really
Yeah.
helped him to,
He was a master
control things.
of strategy.
And is actually
and cunning.
this blend of,
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has led some scholars
Okay.
to say
Yeah.
that this was when the world's first true empire began.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, what makes them different
Mm.
from the other, powerful kingdoms that came before?
It all comes down to how you define empire.
Right. Okay.
Some people say that the Akkadians were the first empire.
Oh, okay.
They ruled over Mesopotamia way before the Assyrians.
Okay.
But Professor Eckhart says
Yeah.
that the Assyrian Empire under Tiglath-Pileser was different.
In what way?
It wasn't just about conquering land. It was about the way they ruled,
Okay.
the way they organized things,
Wow.
the impact they had on the world.
So it wasn't just about
No.
size.
It was about how you rule,
right.
how you organize,
Mhm.
and how you influence other people.
And that's what makes this debate
Yeah.
so interesting.
It is. It's
Well-
a debate that's still going on today.
Right.
But one thing is for sure.
Okay.
The Assyrian Empire under Tiglath-Pileser was a really important time in history.
Okay.
They created this model of empire building
Okay.
that would influence so many civilizations that came after them.
Wow. So even the empires that we think of as like the first empires,
Yeah.
they were actually influenced by the Assyrians.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. This is where things get even more interesting.
Oh, really?
Professor Eckhart says that Tiglath-Pileser wasn't just a ruthless conqueror.
Hmm.
He was more complex than that.
Oh, okay.
Like, he had contradictions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like what?
He spent a lot of his reign fighting,
Yeah.
but he also built diplomatic relationships.
Oh, wow.
He might have even used marriage alliances
Oh, interesting.
as a way to kind of like make peace.
Oh, okay.
And unlike a lot of rulers back then,
Yeah.
he seems to have died peacefully.
Wow. That's unusual.
I know, right?
For a warrior king.
And he left a stable line of succession.
Wow.
I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
Right.
It's not easy to build an empire and then make sure that it continues after you're gone.
So he built this empire,
Yeah.
but he also created
Yeah.
a framework for stability.
It really speaks to his leadership skills.
Yeah.
He was thinking about the long term.
Right. So it makes you wonder, was he only driven by ambition,
Mm-hmm.
or did he really want to
Yeah.
create
Yeah.
something that would last?
You know, it's funny how we tend to remember
Yeah.
these big historical figures
Yeah.
like Tiglath-Pileser,
Mm-hmm.
mostly for their military stuff. Right, yeah.
But there's so much more
Right.
to their stories
Oh,
if you like dig a little deeper.
Right, exactly. And that's what we're trying to do, you know.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the battles
Yeah.
and the conquests.
The big flashy stuff.
But I'm really curious about the man
Yeah.
behind the empire.
Yeah.
You know, like what made him tick.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Eckhart
Yeah.
mentioned some things
Yeah.
that he did that weren't about war.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like marriage alliances
Oh, interesting.
as a diplomatic tool.
Makes sense.
What can you tell me about that?
Well, back then,
Yeah.
it was pretty common
Okay.
for rulers
Yeah.
to marry off their kids.
Right.
Or even themselves
Mhm.
to make alliances.
Okay, yeah.
Like a way to keep the peace,
Right. Yeah.
like ancient real politics.
Totally. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
Secure your borders,
Mm-hmm.
expand your influence,
Exactly.
all through marriage. All through marriage.
And it seems like Tiglath-Pileser
Yeah.
was really good at this.
He was a master of the game.
So do we know anything about his wives?
Well, we know he had at least two,
Okay.
and their names are actually pretty interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
One was named Yaba.
Yaba.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about that?
Her name has caused a lot of debate
Okay.
among historians.
Oh, really? What's the debate?
Well, some think
Yeah.
she might have been a Judean princess
Oh, wow.
because her name is similar to
Oh.
a Hebrew word that means beautiful,
Okay.
but others think she could have been from
Okay.
Arabia
Oh, interesting.
or somewhere else entirely.
Ooh, interesting. Or somewhere else entirely.
Wow.
So we don't really know
We don't know for sure.
where she came from. It's a mystery.
But even the fact that we don't know is interesting.
It is.
Right. It shows
Yeah.
how complex
Yeah.
his web of relationships.
Must have been.
It really was.
It's like this puzzle
Yeah.
we're trying to piece together.
Exactly.
And every little clue
Yeah.
helps us understand him a little bit better.
It reminds us that history isn't just about, like, the big events.
Right.
The wars and the empire.
It's about people.
It's about people. Their
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah.
Their stories.
And those stories
yeah.
are often lost
Look, get lost.
in the big picture.
Yeah. It's easy to forget
Right.
that history is made up
Yeah.
of individual lives.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about
Yeah.
Tiglath-Pileser's
Mm-hmm.
military strategy
Yeah.
and his diplomacy,
Mm-hmm.
but what about his impact
Yeah.
on Assyrian society?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Professor Eckhart mentioned some big administrative reforms.
Oh, yeah. He was a big reformer.
So what were those about?
Well, he was all about
Yeah.
centralizing power
Okay.
and making the government more efficient.
Okay.
And one of his big targets
yeah.
was the provincial governors,
Oh, right.
those powerful officials.
Ones who were like little kings.
Exactly.
Okay.
I had too much power.
Yeah.
And they were often a challenge to the king.
So Tiglath-Pileser needed to
Yeah.
put them in their place.
Yeah, he had to bring them under control.
So how did he do that?
Well, it was a delicate process.
Okay.
He had to be careful not to upset them too much.
Right.
But he also had to make it clear
Yeah.
who was in charge.
So did he like fire them all?
Oh, some of them, yeah.
Okay.
But he also appointed new officials
Okay.
who were loyal to him.
Right. So he replaced them.
Yeah, with people he could trust.
That makes sense.
And he reorganized the government
Okay.
to make it more streamlined.
Okay. So he made it more efficient. So
Exactly.
he kept
Yeah.
a closer eye
Mm.
on everything.
He wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same page.
And that he was the one calling the shots.
Precisely.
So he was basically
Yeah.
a micromanager.
Well, maybe a little bit.
But, I mean, it worked, right?
But it
He
did.
built this massive empire.
Yeah.
So maybe micromanaging is the key to success.
Oh. I don't know about that, but he definitely understood
Yeah.
the importance of organization
Right.
and control.
I mean, he was a master bureaucrat
Yeah.
as well as a military genius.
He was a man of many talents.
And these reforms
Yeah.
probably helped
Oh, yeah, for sure.
to make the Assyrian Empire last as long as it did.
They created a strong foundation
Right, a solid base.
that allowed the empire to thrive.
But even with all that,
Yeah.
the Assyrian Empire eventually fell.
It did.
Professor Eckhart didn't talk much about their decline.
No, we didn't get into that too much.
But what were some of the key factors
Mhm.
that led to their downfall?
Well, it wasn't just one thing.
Okay.
It was a bunch of things,
Oh.
both internal and external pressures.
Okay, like what?
Well, for starters,
Yeah.
they had a lot of trouble
Yeah.
with succession.
Oh, right, like who would be the next king?
Exactly.
Yeah.
After Tiglath-Pileser died,
Yeah.
there were all these power struggles
Mhm.
and rivalries,
Yes.
and that created a lot of instability.
It's like that saying,
Yeah.
a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No matter how strong
Yeah.
the foundation is,
Right.
if everyone's fighting,
Mhm.
the whole thing is
Yeah.
going to crumble.
And then there's the issue of
Uh-huh.
overexpansion.
Oh, yeah, they got too big.
You conquered so much territory.
They bit off more than they could chew.
Right.
It was just too much
Yeah.
to manage.
Too much to control.
They stretched their resources too thin,
Right.
and it created
Yeah.
a lot of logistical problems.
Yeah, it's like if you stretch
Yeah.
a rubber band too far,
Mm.
it's going to snap.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what happened
Yeah.
to the Assyrian Empire.
The cracks started to show,
Yeah.
and their enemies
Yeah.
saw their chance.
Oh, no.
The conquered people
Yeah,
rebelled.
they saw weakness.
Yeah.
And they exploited it.
They were like, okay, now's our chance.
So they were fighting
Yeah.
on multiple fronts.
They were surrounded.
Not a good situation.
No, not at all.
And then the final blow
Yeah.
was this coalition of
Mhm.
their enemies.
A bunch of them got together.
Like who?
The Babylonians,
Okay.
the Medes,
Okay.
they joined forces
Wow.
and took down the Assyrian Empire.
so it was like the ultimate revenge, the
Yeah.
people they had conquered. Yeah.
Came back to bite them.
Wow.
It's a classic tale
Yeah.
of hubris.
What do you mean?
The Assyrians got too confident,
Okay.
too arrogant. They
Right.
thought they were invincible,
Right.
and it cost them everything.
It's a reminder
Yeah.
that no empire,
Yeah.
no matter how powerful,
No matter how strong.
lasts forever.
They're all vulnerable.
I don't have weaknesses.
Exactly.
And it makes you think,
Yeah.
about our world today, right?
Yeah.
We're facing so many challenges.
So
Political divisions, economic inequality, climate change.
Yeah.
What can we learn
Yeah.
from the Assyrians
Good question.
about how to build a better world,
A more sustainable world.
a more just world?
Yeah.
Something to think about.
It is.
Right.
It is.
I mean, their story is both
Yeah.
a warning
Yeah.
and an inspiration.
In what way?
Well, it's a warning
Yeah.
about the dangers of ambition,
Mm-hmm.
unchecked ambition.
Right.
It's also a warning
Yeah.
about the importance of balance,
Okay.
right? You need strength,
Mm.
but you also need compassion.
You need both.
But it's also an inspiration
Yeah.
to be bold, to innovate,
Yeah.
to be willing to change.
To adapt to new
So-
circumstances.
And we can't forget
Yeah.
the human side
Mhm.
of their story
Right.
behind all the big empires
Yeah.
and the battles.
Mhm.
We're real people
There
with
were.
real lives,
They had hopes and dreams
just like us.
and struggles.
They loved,
Yeah.
they lost, they laughed,
Yeah.
they cried,
Yeah. They were just like us.
and their stories remind us
Yeah.
that history isn't just about dates
No.
and names.
It's about people.
It's about the choices they made
Yeah.
and the impact they had
Exact
on the
state.
world.
It's about the human experience.
Okay, so speaking of legacy,
Yeah.
Professor Eckhart argued
Yeah.
that the Assyrians' impact
Mm-hmm.
went far beyond
Yeah.
just their military conquests.
Oh, absolutely.
He talked about their innovations in
Yeah.
government administration,
Mm-hmm.
their art,
Yeah.
and their influence
Yeah.
on later empires.
It's true. They were incredibly influential.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, of course. On that. The Assyrians weren't just conquerors. They were builders,
Okay.
innovators, cultural influencers.
Okay.
They created the sophisticated system
Right.
of government,
Yeah.
their administrative techniques,
Oh.
their legal codes, their art, their architecture,
Yeah.
all of that
Right.
had a huge impact on the ancient world.
So their DNA, so to speak,
Yeah,
was woven into
Yeah.
the fabric of later civilization.
that's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah, they were more than just warriors. Their ideas,
Yeah.
their innovations,
Mm-hmm.
those are what really lasted.
Those are their true legacy.
Absolutely.
Professor Eckhart mentioned
Yeah.
the Babylonians
Oh, yeah.
and the Persians
Yeah.
as examples.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me some specifics?
Sure.
Like, how did they influence?
Well, let's start with the Babylonians.
Okay.
It's kind of ironic because they were the ones who helped bring down the
Yeah.
Assyrian Empire.
They learned a lot from them.
They did. Their government,
Right.
their administration,
Mhm.
their record keeping,
Wow.
all of that
Yeah.
was based on
Yeah.
Assyrian models.
Wow. So even in defeat,
Yeah,
the Assyrians left their mark.
they did.
Right.
It shows you how complex the
Yeah.
flow of ideas
Yeah.
can be.
Right.
Conquest doesn't always mean that the conquered people
Right,
have
it's-
nothing to offer.
Sometimes it's the other way around.
Exactly.
The conquerors
Yeah.
learn from the conquered.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
So it's this really intricate back and forth.
To give and take.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just a one-way street.
It's a two-way street.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the Persians?
Oh, yeah, the Persians.
How were they influenced?
Well, they were heavily influenced
Okay.
by Assyrian art and architecture.
Really?
Yeah, if you look at the Persian palaces,
Okay.
you can see
Mhm.
Assyrian influences everywhere.
Like what specifically?
The reliefs,
Okay.
the carvings, the
Hmm.
way they decorated
Yeah.
their buildings, it's
Right.
all very Assyrian.
Wow, so even their artistic style
Yeah.
were shaped by the Assyrians.
That's a way, yeah.
That's amazing.
It shows you how interconnected
Yeah.
these ancient empires were.
They were building
Yeah.
on what came before.
They weren't starting from scratch.
They were taking inspiration
Yeah.
from each other,
Yeah.
learning from each other.
Even borrowing from each other.
Right, and it's not just about
Yeah.
the successes.
Yeah.
They were also learning from
Yeah.
the failures.
Yeah, they were like, okay, we don't want to do that.
Right.
They were trying to avoid
Yeah.
making the same mistakes.
That's so cool.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It really is.
To see these connections
Yeah.
across time and space.
It's like this giant
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
that's been going on for
Mhm.
centuries.
And we're just now starting to understand it.
You know, Professor Eckhart also mentioned
Yeah.
that Tiglath-Pileser was
Mhm.
really interested
Oh, yeah.
in Babylonian culture,
He was fascinated by it.
which seems kind of ironic,
Yeah.
considering he conquered them.
It is a bit strange.
But I guess it makes sense
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, the Assyrians,
Yeah.
they were drawn to
Yeah.
the Babylonians' achievements,
They admired their culture.
their knowledge,
Yeah.
their art,
Yeah.
their literature.
They were like,
Yeah.
we want to be like them.
So it was this weird mix
Yeah.
of admiration
Mm-hmm.
and rivalry.
Yeah, right.
Like, they wanted to be them,
Mm-hmm.
but they also wanted to beat them.
They wanted to have it both ways.
Right.
And it's not just the Assyrians and Babylonians. We
Yeah.
see this throughout history. Powerful nations
Yeah.
often have these complicated relationships with their rivals.
Right.
It's like a love-hate thing.
Right.
You respect them,
Yeah.
but you also resent them.
You want to be them,
Yeah.
but you also want to crush them.
This human thing, I guess.
Professor Eckhart even said
Yeah.
that Tiglath-Pileser
Mm-hmm.
took part in
Yeah.
Babylonian religious festivals.
Oh, wow. That's surprising.
I know, right? It seems
Yeah.
kind of weird for
Yeah.
a conqueror,
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that.
but I guess it was a way of
Yeah.
showing respect,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it was a smart move. It was
Yeah.
a way of saying,
Yeah.
hey, I'm not here to destroy your culture.
Right.
I'm here to embrace it.
Yeah.
I'm one of you now.
So it was like a political strategy.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
It was a way of legitimizing his rule.
Right. Making people
Yeah.
more accepting
Of
of
authority. He was blending
Yeah.
Assyrian power
Mm-hmm.
with Babylonian legitimacy.
It's fascinating
It is.
how he was able to navigate
Mhm.
all of
Yeah.
that, the military,
Yeah.
the political,
Yeah.
the cultural.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
He was a master of the game.
Okay, so Professor Eckhart said
Yeah.
that Tiglath-Pileser died peacefully,
He did.
which is
Yeah.
pretty unusual
Yeah.
for an ancient ruler.
Most of them died
Yeah,
in battle
right.
or were
Oh,
assassinated.
right, or poisoned or something.
Yeah, it was a dangerous job.
But Tiglath-Pileser
Mhm.
seems to have died
Yeah.
of natural causes.
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
anticlimactic. You know,
Yeah.
this mighty warrior
Yeah.
who built this huge empire,
Yeah.
and then he just dies in
Yeah.
his sleep.
It's kind of a letdown.
It's like, wait, that's it?
Yeah, you'd expect something more dramatic.
But maybe that's the point.
What do you mean?
Maybe it's a reminder
Yeah.
that no matter how powerful you are,
Yeah.
you're still human.
You're still mortal.
You can't escape death.
No one can.
It's a humbling thought.
It is.
And maybe
Yeah.
it's a reminder
Mhm.
that true greatness
Yeah.
isn't about
Yeah.
power
Mm.
or wealth.
It's about something more.
Right. It's about the impact you have
Mm-hmm.
on others,
Yeah.
the legacy you leave behind.
That's what really
And
matters.
Tiglath-Pileser definitely left a legacy.
Big what?
And we're still uncovering it.
They are.
Today we'll talk more about
Yeah.
their influence
Yeah.
on future empires
Okay.
and their innovations
Cool.
in future episodes.
Sounds good.
You know, it's kind of crazy how
Mhm.
we can look back
Yeah.
at this civilization
Mm.
that was around thousands of years ago
Yeah.
and see ourselves in them.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
the drive for power,
Mm-hmm.
the clash of cultures, the rise and fall of empires.
It's a timeless story.
It's like
Yeah.
we're still making
Yeah.
the same mistakes
Yeah.
over and over again.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
what we can learn.
What can we learn from them?
Yeah.
What wisdom can we take
Yeah.
from their triumphs
Mm.
and their failures?
That's the big question.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
they were so powerful,
They were a force to be reckoned with.
but they also made mistakes.
They did.
Mistakes that
Yeah.
led to their downfall.
Yeah.
So what do you think
Mm.
was their biggest misstep?
I think their biggest mistake
Yeah.
was relying too much
Right.
on military power.
Right.
It worked for a while,
Yeah.
but in the long run,
Yeah.
backfired.
What do you mean?
They created a lot of enemies
Oh, right.
by conquering everyone.
Yeah.
And all those conquered people,
Yeah.
they were just waiting for a chance to rebel.
So they were constantly
Yeah.
fighting these uprisings,
Mm.
and it drained their resources.
Weakened them.
And
Yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah.
it led to their downfall.
It's like that saying, you can conquer by force,
Yeah.
but you can't rule by force.
You need more than just brute strength.
You need the support of the people.
You need to win hearts and minds.
Exactly.
And the Assyrians,
Yeah.
they weren't very good at that
They were better at conquering.
than at ruling.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
They were so good at adapting
Yeah.
when it came to
Yeah.
military tactics and administrative stuff
Yeah.
from other cultures.
They were quick learners.
So why couldn't they apply that same adaptability to, like,
Yeah.
creating a more inclusive empire?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what if they had tried to
Yeah.
integrate the people they conquered
Yeah.
as equals?
Instead of just
Yeah.
subjugating them.
Right.
Maybe they would have.
Yeah.
Created a more stable empire.
An empire that could have lasted longer.
It's a reminder
Yeah.
that even the mightiest empires
Mm-hmm.
are fragile.
Well, it can be brought down by so many things.
There are internal divisions.
Yeah.
External enemies.
Yeah.
A failure to adapt.
A lack of vision.
What's a complex equation?
And it makes you think
Yeah.
about the world today. Right.
Yeah.
We have so many challenges.
We do.
Climate change.
Yeah.
Political polarization. Economic inequality.
Yeah.
Are we making the same mistakes as the Assyrians?
It's a question worth asking.
It really is.
Yeah.
We need to learn from history so we don't repeat it.
We don't want to end up like
Yeah.
the Assyrians.
It's been an incredible journey
It has.
exploring the Assyrian Empire.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned
Yeah.
so much.
Me too.
And I have a whole new appreciation for their complexity, their achievements, and their failures.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for sharing your expertise.
It was my pleasure.
And for our listeners,
Yeah.
if you found this deep dive as fascinating as we did,
Yeah.
be sure to subscribe to the Deep Dive
Yeah.
for more explorations of history, science, culture, and everything in between.
We got it all.
We're here to help you
Yeah.
uncover those hidden gems of knowledge
Yeah.
and to make learning
Yeah.
a captivating adventure.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
See ya.